And so in terms of like honing your skills, when I got to the point where I'd been made redundant and I understood that I was losing that job and had a little bit of gardening leave and all the rest of it, then it was a case of, it was almost like from that point I'd been opened, my eyes had been opened to the fact that I'm not just a number in this situation, this process, whatever it is, this machine, this corporate world, you are just a number. And from that point, I got into a little bit of personal development, listening to sort of Tony Robbins, people like that, Jim Rohn, things like that. And understanding that there has to be something out there that I'm good at. Whatever it is, I've got to find it.
Absolutely.
And when you find it, you lock onto that. And I think the gateway for me, the Pandora's box was reading Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I think that will resonate with a lot of people.
I'm yet to read that book.
Amazing book.
I've heard so many good things about
Amazing
it.
book. Like in the most concise way, he has two dads, not really two dads. His dad, his father, who was an academic, a professor in a really quite good school, but was very much the belief system of a poor mind, which is get a good education, go to work for that business for life, build a pension, and let that pension look after.
That's it. That's life. Yeah.
That's what we got taught when we were, well, not so much we, but that's what our parents got taught when they were younger. And that's what they kind of perpetuated to us, is go to work for a good organisation. That'll be the job for life. And then you'll be looked after with the pension.
Yeah.
And obviously, you know what happens with pension schemes these days, that they don't really do much. Everyone gets 3%. That's not great.
Some of them are going bust.
Yeah.
People losing their money.
Exactly that. So then his best friend's father, who had serial entrepreneur, had a few businesses, because Robert was obviously hanging around with his best friend a lot, he was then sometimes working for his best friend's father.
Okay.
And then his best friend's father would let him go to meetings and teach them both stuff about business. And that in its entirety is really the rich man's thought process was, don't let the government look after you. You have to be self-sufficient in this world. Build a business that can pay for your liabilities, and that's houses, cars, watches, whatever it is, but then have all of the mechanisms in place to leverage that wealth in terms of stocks and shares, all of that stuff. And that's what his book really says, is buy real estate that can pay for your liabilities.
Nice.
And then you can start to dabble into other things,
other bits and pieces, and spreading
when you've grown your wealth, then you can sort of
spreading your risk, spreading your investments, which is such another very important thing. Do you get what I mean? Because there's a lot that's been happening recently. I don't know if you've been following, especially in America, with the banks, proper legit as well.
Silicon Valley Bank.
Silicon Valley Bank.
Yeah.
It's not just them. Even with the crypto space, there's a lot that's been happening, and this is why guys like Warren Buffett, they've always preached minimizing and spreading your investments. He says he generally doesn't care how good something is. He just believes in not putting it in one basket, basically.
His belief system is around stocks and shares and the performance of a business and what they do. So he'll be very much diligent in the research of a business, what they produce, what their bottom line is, what their profit and loss is. And he's in for the long term. He's not in for short term.
Yes.
So whereas the crypto space at the moment, you've seen a lot of people be creating wealth from that. It's very fast.
And then quick crashes too.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't keep up so much with it that much at the moment, but a couple of years ago, just before COVID hit, the market was quite low. Well, it was actually quite high, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And
there was a point where it was high,
it was
everybody was laughing,
people were
right?
happy.
Yeah, and what happened is that when it was high, everybody took their money from places, were taking their life savings, putting it because they'd seen it. Do you get what I mean? Where you're seeing returns and you're thinking, oh yeah, definitely. But that's another thing. It's like, just because you see returns, it doesn't mean to get carried away. Spread the risk. That couldn't be more important, especially the whole Silicon Valley bank thing. It's just like, fam.
Well, that's just a precursor, isn't it?
Of what's to come.
We know there's cycles in the financial markets, and that's always been the testament to the 2008 crash. The crashes before that there will be peaks and troughs, and the recessions are being played out now in this market, and it's. A lot of wealth will be created in the recession because there's a lot of people that are gearing up for it to be able to take advantage of what happens.
Oh, yes.
But what the fallout means is there's going to be a lot of redundancies. There's going to be a lot of people out of work. That's not the greatest point. At the moment, we're in a high inflation part of the world. Bank interest has just gone up again. So if you're highly leveraged in terms of you've got a lot of debt, might not be great for you, but if you've got some assets that you can sort of reduce those debts, that might work for you as well.
Yeah,
it's testament to just knowing the cycles and seeing them run.
Exactly.
To understand what happens going forward. As I said, I don't really play in that crypto space yet.
Yeah,
too volatile for me. I don't know enough about it.
It never appealed to me, you know, because I remember even the days of Clubhouse, like, you know, when we were talking, everybody was a crypto expert. Everyone was a crypto millionaire investor. But now all those millionaires are gone.
Yeah.
You have people like KSI, I think he lost like 1.4 something million.
Yeah.
Off it.
He had that liquid to lose, didn't he, to a certain extent?
That's the thing. Somebody was talking about this where I think he's like Hassan Minhaj, talking about how these people that sell it, they sell it to people as if those people also have the money to lose. But then there are people that can afford to lose certain amounts of money. But there's certain products that are sold to people as if everyone is in the same boat, and that's not the case.
And I think that's where you know, when it comes into what your risk appetite is, and then you should only risk what you can afford to lose.
You could say that again.
And when you got into this, when I got into this space, like the property game, it was very much we went on these whirlwind of courses. You get to what they call them sort of discovery days, depending on who you go with. It's usually a free course. You go and learn for a day. And then they say, do you want to go on to this other course? And that's going to be £1,000 at the time. And you go for 3 days, and then you go to that course for 3 days. And then the upsell at the end of those 3 days will be, let's do this £27,000 course.
27,000.
And you're like, what? Okay, who can afford that? Firstly,
they will say it's an investment. It's an investment.
Drop 20 grand or 30, nearly best part of 30 grand onto a course that you've got no guarantee of being able to do what you need to do with the property side of things.
Right.
So we never really pulled the trigger on that. And that was when my wife was with me on that side of things. And we kind of got diverted off the property game at that point. And I was at like early 30s then. And got pulled into sort of multi-level marketing, which was at the time, which
how did that work out for you? The multi-level marketing. You know what? There's so many other little facets that have come about, but they've just been redecorated. You were talking about the company that was selling something and trying to pretend they weren't even trying to pretend to be something else. There are so many multi-level.
If you think about all the multi-level marketing brands that are out there, you've got, was one of the biggest ones at the time when we were in it. There's what's it called? The one with Ronaldo is actually
championing.
He was a sponsor for. He was sponsored by them.
Okay.
But I can't remember what it's called now. It'll come back to me at some point. But the whole point of sort of a pyramid scheme is you make money if you're one of the first people in, and then you recruit. Then you get paid off of that. So we went into this and people were getting paid off of us. And if you're doing well, that's great. But then it only really works for you if you start recruiting.
More people coming in.
And I think we were kind of at the spell of, I wasn't necessarily too fully in this because it was more of a case of we were kind of maybe a little bit vulnerable at the time.
Okay.
Because we were just like, we'd moved into a new house. We needed to make a little bit more money. And rather than me get a second job, this would be something that you could do. And then we could both work our normal jobs and do this on the side.
Okay.
And I haven't got any problem with that at all. And because I was already in sales, it wasn't necessarily a bad thing for me. I can sell products if they're health and beauty. It was that. So I just like jumped on the bandwagon of, I'm a fit and healthy guy. These are the products I use. You should use them too.
Okay.
And people did do that, and that was fine. And we didn't make great deal money, but you don't unless you start recruiting. But we know people that were making millions and thousands of pounds from this.
They were at the top.
At the top. And they were doing really well. But as all pyramid schemes happen, at some point they will cascade on and they will implode, and that's what happened. But we were only in it for a minute to a certain extent. It was kind of, I think once my wife realized that these products weren't as good as they said they were going to be, so they didn't have parabens in them, so they're not detrimental to children using them. So there was no toxins and things like that. As soon as that realization that some of these products did have parabens in them, most things do have parabens in them because they're like methods of ways to stop them from going off after a certain amount of time. It's like E numbers in food. But yeah, once we learned that, it was kind of, we pulled ourselves away from that. However, I'm not saying that you can't be successful in these things, but you've really got to go in with your eyes open to know what you're doing. And like if you're talking about risk and reward, there's probably better things that you can risk your money in and get a better reward from. Than try and sell another man's product because it's not yours. If that product gets taken away from you, it's somebody else's. So then,
and if there's liability as well, it could be your head. Especially more times, regular people are encouraged to recruit like their family members and their friends and whatever. So if you discover something is off, you don't have control over that. It's gonna,
and that's the situation. It didn't really lay well with us. And I've always been in the mindset where if I'm going to create a business, I don't necessarily want my friends and family to be the people that buy from me, because that will run out at some point.
Exactly. And, we've spoken about overhead. We've spoken about growth and scaling. That's exactly right,
There's
Mikey.
Not an element to growth if you've only got your cousins, your family, your aunties, your uncles buying from you.
This is what I say.
Market.
This venture that I'm starting here, it may be excruciating for me to find my customer base, but I want to find my customer base. And what I want is for the people that will find value in what I'm doing, because I know if they find value in what I'm doing, they'll be willing to pay. I need people that are willing to pay, and I need people that are willing to pay a certain amount because they actually see the value that they're getting out of the product that I'm offering them. Only then can I now be speaking of leases and office spaces and things like that. Because without that, right, you might have maybe somebody come, you convince a friend, they come one time, they go, then what?
That's it. They don't come back.
What have you got left?
Retention. That's
a
retention. Most people talk about what's the life value of a customer to you. And if you know what that is for one customer, say for instance on the product side of things, like we were just talking, if it's cosmetics, if somebody's buying off you once a month, their lifetime value is whatever at the end of that year that value is. And then you can obviously upsell them on that other stuff. Lip balms, body soaps, maybe protein shakes, all that stuff.
There you go.
That's what the big marketing companies do. Coca-Cola, all of those big brands. They're doing all of those things. What you're talking about right now is understanding who your client avatar is, and I talk about that a lot in how I train my mentees or private clients. Is you really want to know who your client is, the demographic, age, the gender, all of that stuff, and then you can specifically segment what that person looks like when it comes to what sector they work in. To then put that together to to refine that funnel,
streamline, yes, and then it kind of, again, it comes down to your energy is more focused then, isn't it?
Yeah.
You market directly to your customer, which means you can take out,
you're speaking in their tone, aren't you?
Exactly. You take out all the other things that you don't need, and because people try and do anything and everything.
Yeah.
It's like, who's your core market? Well, I don't know. I'm trying to appeal to children, whilst at the same time I'm trying to appeal to adults. That's not going to work.
Well, they say if you try and market to everybody, you end up marketing
to no one.
Because it's so true. Because if you see some of the best brands out there, they're going for a specific demographic, gender, all of that stuff.
Stick to that small tribe, and then
get good at it.
Yes.
And then they move on to something else.
You know, the tribe thing, that small tribe, what they do, especially if they're loyal, they're consistent, and they keep supporting you, that's what grows you. But it has to start with the small tribe to prove the concept, to show for you to grow, and then to do everything that you, because even Apple, it started out as a specialist product. So they were loyal Apple followers, the people that used to buy the Mac, and the people that were, you know, that bought even the iPod, because the iPod was expensive. As an MP3, I was like, what are you mad? I'm not buying an iPod. But now an iPhone is a must. Or an iPad. I've got an iPad, an iPhone, a MacBook, right?
But they've built you into that community.
Yes.
Their technology is so intuitive to a point that your Apple phone, your Apple iPads, your
MacBook
laptop,
Pro,
all will sync to each other if they're in locality. That it's so easy for you to use it that if you go to Android again,
it just throws the whole thing off.
An alien situation.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not that I've got any problems with that multi-level marketing things, because there are some things it brought that was really good.
Okay.
And I'd say that the training that sometimes is available, because you don't get a lot of training in sales, but the way that they train you in terms of how to open up conversations, how to build rapport and all that stuff, unless you've been trained in that art of skill of selling,
then you won't know.
You won't know it.
Yes.
But if you're trying to learn something new for future, there's probably other things,
better ways.
And I'm a massive advocate now on investing in yourself for something you can grow for yourself, and then grow your own wealth that way.
Absolutely.
And if you do that, then at least you're the person where the buck stops.
In control. Yeah.
And I'm not saying that you have to create a product and create a brand or create an apparel line that you want to do. It's just, you can start buying stuff from like wholesalers and then reselling it on Amazon if you want to do that. Like it's not that hard to do, but you just got to figure it out. It's whether you figure it out from somebody that knows what they're doing, or you figure it out from watching a load of YouTubes because it's free, or you read a load of books, audibles, or whatever it is. There's ways and methods to be able to train yourself into something else.
Doing it. I agree with you 100%. And I'm an advocate for that myself. Like starting business, taking on the risk, it gives you so much more control, you know, the way you navigate things. Whereas if you are in a job environment, of course it's okay for people, but you've got less control, especially like now family, having more kids, and how do you handle that? How do you handle daycare? How do you handle time off with spouse? And because we have to go give our time to these people who pay us money, and they want to get every drop of the little whatever that they pay you. You don't get as much, but when you're on their time, you're on their time.
Well, that's for every company you work for, there will be a measure of what your cost is to them.
Yes.
What all those things I spoke about earlier, the car, the laptop, the phone, that's a cost to them as well, an expense.
Yes.
So you put that all together. So your salary, your car, everything, that's what you cost them as a business, as an entity for them.
So they need to get that back. As with anything else.
It's either triple the amount that you're getting paid. That's your end figure. But that's how you've got to think about it when you're selling products is let me sell something for, or buy something for £1 and sell it for 2 or 3 or 5.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say though, rather you're building onto something that you can pass on legacy, you know, to children, I wouldn't tout it as being easy. Being in business for yourself might be difficult, it might be challenging, but so is work. So is being in work and doing it for somebody else, So
it's a
why
different
not?
Kind. It's a different kind of difficult.
It is a different kind. And I'll say, why not do it, if you can, of course, do it for yourself, because you're also building onto something that you can pass on to your children. You're building onto something that gives you a little bit more control. It gives you a little bit more, flexibility. Of course, what that means also is going to require more of you. So you have to study more. You have to get the knowledge. You do have to be willing to even invest in certain things, because what you said, like businesses, yes, they pay you a salary, but they'll pay for you to go for training. They will pay for certain things that they understand will add on to the value that you as an employee will give. Hence, if you're doing it for yourself, what is it you're doing to elevate yourself, right? To invest in not only what you're doing, but to invest in yourself to get yourself to that next level.
Talking about the ability to create something and have that legacy.
Oh yes, pass on
the legacy.
Yeah.
And with the property thing, when I realized that property was the right thing for me, and that was after the courses I'd sat on and realized that some ticket courses are just too expensive.
Yeah.
It's got to be right for you as an individual. Whatever you want to invest in yourself, it's never going to be bad for you to invest in yourself if there's a payoff at the end.
Absolutely.
So I still invest in myself on training, reading books, audibles, all that good stuff. And there is an element of cost to that.
Oh yes.
But because people are paying a subscription, they don't necessarily see the costs to buying books or anything like that. It's just I got some enjoyment out of it. Whereas if you invest in yourself, personal development, training courses, things like that, you don't lose those skills. You're enhancing
them.
Everything that you're bringing to the table. So when you think about what you invest in yourself for university, because it's not an investment up front, it's a debt.
Yeah.
You don't really consider it.
No, because it just feels like, oh yeah, I'm just going, it's somebody else is paying for it.
You should 100%, because you're going to pay it back at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But to my point, you've got to think about where that end goal is going to be. Because once I realized, and it was from not sitting on a course, but going to some networking events that happen all around the UK, PPNs and PINs. So Property Investors Network and then Progressive Property Network. They're some of the biggest training providers in the UK.
Okay.
One's by Simon Zushi. The other one is Rob Moore and Mark Homer. They're really good places for people that are starting out to go and have a look, see what they're interested in. There will be a random speaker, not maybe every month, but every other month or something like that, depending on how frequently they can. It went online for a bit whilst COVID was happening, but it helps you as a person, as well as property magazines, to read on these things, these subjects that you may not necessarily know you want to get involved in that yet, but it gives you an idea of what the gateway will be.
Brilliant.
As the Rich Dad Poor Dad was the opener to invest in property, because you can then create wealth and buy more property and then pay for all the stuff all the nice stuff, all this stuff.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's, and I was fortunate to sit in on a networking event where two people sat down. Two people were speakers, guest speakers.
Okay.
One of them was telling the story of his experience towards service accommodation. The other one was telling his story about deal packaging. Both of them sounded like very good ideas. One of them felt like a bit more of a business.
Okay.
And the one that sounded like a bit more of a business, not that neither of them were, both of them were businesses, but one sounded like more of a sales business.
And the other one sounded like a business.
And the other one sounded like a business. And I was more into that because it had more legs to it.
Brilliant.
So the service accommodation was the route I went into, and then ended up going on a training course to learn it, learn all the legalities of it, the contractual obligations of it. because in essence you become a management company.
Oh yeah.
You have to know the due diligence of how to scrutinize deals against property sizes, the income, what the debt will be from the capex, all that sort of stuff. And that was the interesting part to me. But it also showed that it had legs, because you're creating a business that is, for instance, a hotel that sits within 4 walls. It might have 4 bedrooms. You do the whole house scenario, and you're renting it out by the night for between, I don't know, £100 and £200, depending on how big the property is. And from that, you create a measure of profit or revenue from that month, and whatever is taken away from the cost in terms of the bills, and then the rent obligation that you pay to the landlord, whatever is left after that is yours.
That's yours.
That's yours. And it's a really quick way to scale.
Brilliant.
Predominantly because there's a very low bar of entry in terms of your capital expenditure.
Okay.
And then there's an element of whatever goes from there in terms of costs.
Yeah.
And you can do the properties up to very opulent, high standards.
Yeah.
Or you can have very cost-effective living arrangements for people that might be a bit more cost concerned. And that's down to the guest avatar we were talking about earlier. Yeah. The client
Absolutely,
specific, what your demographic is. And if you know that, and you know the locations specifically that are correct, you can run the numbers really quickly.
And absolutely.
Everything like that. And that works out really well. And within the first year of me starting the business, I wasn't anything special, like anything.
You said that, mate, but
no, but
everything else in the conversation says something else.
But you know what I mean? Like I didn't do anything different.
No, I hear
there was a lot of people out in the game whilst we were doing it, learning it. They were far quicker and faster than me in doing it. I think I acquired my first deal within 4 months of me starting the course. Yeah. And then that was the hardest one for me, because deal 1 came really, it took a long time, and we had a little bit of development in there as well. So the landlord hadn't finished completed the development. So we were just waiting for that to happen. And then the turnaround of me doing it to putting all the furniture in took a little bit longer than I expected, because I was brand new to this. Yeah. But then deals 2, 3, and 4 came like buses, like really quick.
They always say the first one is the hardest. Yeah, exactly. Then everything else is just kind of like a natural flow.
Yeah, and that was it. And then we went from like 1 to 4 fairly quickly. Yeah. However, we went straight into COVID then.
Oh wow.
So COVID hit, and it was almost like, okay, we've got to just take a little time, and all the rest of it, and understand where we are right now. Because at the time I had a partner, and the deal was she brought the money and I brought the time and effort, and then the deal was at the end of the 12 months, the first agreement would finish, and then the second agreement would take place, and she would either come into the business or whatever at the time. So we got to the first beginning part of the year where COVID's hit, and you think this is going to be a very easy scenario. Yeah. But we switched our model from doing the short-term stays to a long-term model.
Okay.
So we were 28 days, and we really serviced, and because we only had 4 properties at the time, we serviced most of the NHS staff that were trying to house themselves from their parents or their family members that were elderly, that were vulnerable. And that's really what kept us afloat for the first 4 or 5 months. Yeah. And really bought us some time until the end of the year to know what was going on.
To figure out how to readjust and...
Yeah. And then by the end of the year, we were fortunate enough to reinvest and scale to, I think it was 13 properties.
Oh, wow.
And then we did the same again the following year.
Oh, wow.
And that was by a little bit of luck, you would say, because right place, right time. Not necessarily like I'm lucky guy, I've just stepped over there and there's a house. It was more of I'd had a conversation with somebody, and then that conversation would come back to fruition maybe 6 months down the line. Remember that guy you had a conversation with? They want to take a property from them. okay, cool. Okay, let's explore that, because we might need to reevaluate the original conversation, because that might have been pre-COVID or whatever it was. But there were some hurdles, some pitfalls as well. We lost a couple of landlords based on COVID.
Yeah,
either
COVID
dying
was tough for
or
everyone.
yeah. So that was the scariest conversation, where you've got an agreement drawn up, and then the phone just goes. Nobody's calling you. So then I leave it for 3 months, because I needed some time anyway. And then eventually call up the agent, which we'd had most of the negotiations through, and said, just wanted to know what's gone on. And obviously there's been a change of mind here, but what's gone on? And the young lady was like, actually, unfortunately, my father passed away.
Oh, wow.
And you're like, that's okay, first and foremost. And I'm really sorry about what's happened. And if anything you need to do, like us to do, then we're here to help. But obviously we'll speak again in the future. And that relationship didn't sort of deteriorate. It was just more of a case of the person that the agreement was with had passed on. So it really wasn't in good taste to sort of take it to somebody else and say, push it. But we had a really good conversation with the agent afterwards, and she was really open to us working with them in the future. And we've just not got to a point where they have a lot of their properties in Leicestershire, and we don't really work there yet. So it's not something we've moved into just yet, but that's an option on the table in the future.
To go. Man, I hear you. I love your story post-COVID, because a lot of people, it's a different story that they've been telling. And the fact that you've come out and sounding like you guys are coming out even stronger.
So we've had like COVID was a massive blip and stress on a lot of businesses.
A lot of people, families.
We still really haven't like come to the end of that conclusion of what it is in terms of the pain of people. A lot of companies like myself that came out of that came out with some debt, which is on the cards of getting cleared. But it is more a case of, could we survive this? And if we can survive that, then
how do we weather the storm?
Passing
storm.
So the model that I stuck with, which is the 28 days or more, still is there, but we still offer now the shorter term stays. So we don't really offer anything less than 4 days, but we offer anything from 4 all the way up to 28 to longer than that. So as an example, we've got a guest that's staying in one of our properties, and they've been there for about 74 nights now.
Wow.
And that's best part of maybe £8,000.
Wow. That's serious.
So it's a really good return. When you think, like, we just painted and decorated that, and I say we because my assistant helped me. And my mum as well.
Oh, brilliant. Mum again.
Mum's a massive advocate for me. And it cost us maybe £500. And at the time I was scratching my head talking to my mum saying, do I really want to spend £500 on this property?
So you spent £500 and you're getting 8,000 in revenue?
Exactly, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is serious.
So that's a good chunk of change. And then after bills, you're probably taking maybe half of that.
Wow. Yeah. What was the £500 on?
So paint, some paintings, like in terms of like art and stuff like that. What else? Some labour as well. And then some hangers and stuff like that. Some stuff that had actually, the consumables had been consumed and left and taken and things like that. So it was, you can do setups on very good budgets, but you can also do them on really like tight budgets. But you just got to know what you're doing in terms of investment of things. Do it in the right places. Because people spend the wrong money on the wrong
place, and then your returns are not even
exactly.
They don't make sense.
When it comes to refurbing houses, like people will spend absolutely stupid amounts of money on things that, like living rooms, when a living room won't sell your house, but a kitchen and a bathroom will. Definitely. You know what I mean? So like that's where you spend your money, and you drive and things like that. You don't spend them on the stuff that you like in your living room, because chances are you move out of that living room and that house, the person's going to change that living room to something they like.
Facts.
So that's the thing on costs inside. So we're doing well.
Yeah.
Getting better. It's
getting there, getting stronger.
The future is bright.
I was gonna say it looks bright. Oh, it sounds bright. It feels bright. You know, with we need to have at some point. I'm sure we will have a broader conversation about like deep dive and what you do and how it works, because I'm so fascinated.
Yeah.
Of course, we'll have a conversation outside this as well.
Yeah, for sure.
In terms of finding out, to be like, how can I dip into a little bit of that? Even though, to be fair, like what I'm mastering at the moment is this. You know, when we're talking about focusing, and I just came to a decision and I said, you know what? Seeing as I'm doing this podcasting thing, I'm just going to do this, grow in it, learn in it, and this will be my craft, mastering and growing it.
Well, they say that
the key thing.
They say master one thing first.
Yes, then you can go to the other.
Things.
I believe in that. Yeah.
So I definitely I'm a testament to that. So I mastered the short-term rental space.
Yes.
Learned that to its nth degree. And then moved into the management space. So now I manage on behalf of landlords and other investors.
Oh, wow.
And then I've obviously got my own portfolio as well within that same banner. And I've also got a small joint venture with my sister that we did last year that worked out really well, and then ended up going really quiet for a while. But now it's bouncing back a bit now. So it's more about understanding the markets and then sort of moving with them, because this isn't a business that's just static. It does dynamically move, seasonality and everything else.
Yeah, but it's knowing what you're
how
doing,
to change,
knowing where you are, and
right.
that can actually expertise. So important. I was like, I could tell you stories about podcasting. I've been doing this for like a year, 2 years and growing. This is why I'm so excited to start working with people. And I'm saying it's not going to really be a kind of business where I'm working for people or letting people just do their thing. But I think it'll be very much a collaborative effort on people's content, what they're looking to put out. It'll be very important for me to understand their vision first. And I've realized that working that way is the only way that I can get the most out of this space. Because as you can imagine, I can only put it out or rent it out per hour. So I have to get the most out of the hour. And I thought to myself, do you know what? It's not just giving them a resource, but it's me being a resource to say, do you know what? Come here, let me show you what I can do. And then what can we birth? It's like a child, right? You birth the child, but they have all these characteristics that you never knew, and you see them grow and blossom, and it warms your heart. So I'm so excited in this space to be able to birth some amazing content, to work with people. Obviously, as you can imagine, I have my own ideas of how I like certain things. Other people will have their own, but the beauty is that it's customizable with the lights or however they want to do it. So I'm excited to see when people come here, what they can do with the foundation that I've laid, or rather what we can do, and make sure we can pull out some amazing work, some amazing content, so that we can eventually take up that lease that I told you about.
No,
but now,
but that's the dream, isn't it? You, and everyone has that ambition. Like my ambition is I do want to own a hotel at some point. And
brilliant.
whether we build it from scratch or we take over an old B&B and we turn that into what we want, then that's the ability. And I'm a big believer, if you speak it, then it comes to you.
Absolutely.
Because there's some crazy things that I've spoken about, and then they're
putting it in the air. The energy is going to come and match you.
You've got to, like affirmation side of things.
Right.
And people don't believe in them, but you've got to believe in the power of what you ask for.
Right.
If you're willing to receive it, because the universe will put things in your path to challenge you, to say, do you really want it?
And how are you going to take it? You've got this not working out, but what are you going to do? How are you going to adjust, right? I was going to say, even you being here, Mikey, right? Because this space has been a war zone for the past couple of, because I've just been working, I'm still working it out, as I say to you. So there are things that are still yet to be like properly finalized, right? I normally use that other space for the interviews, which is like specific for one-to-one. You know, it is this more like
this is a nice feel,
right? Like, I know, I love it, like feel. Just homely. But this is more
for one of these in my next essays.
I'm saying 4 people set up, but today I was like, what am I gonna do to move these? I don't want to move these things. So I'm like, you know what? Let me just try out the space to begin, because it's already here. Let's see what I can do with Mikey. And I just have a feeling this is like God ordained, because I believe in God and spirituality. And I'm like, Mikey, come here. I don't know who's going to see this. I don't know how the connections, not that you are particularly going to do anything, but I just had this thing come to me of feeling like this is a seeding in that the way this has come together organically, by the way, if it just came together organically between two parties, it's going to put something out there that will then come back to really fulfill the potential of this.
You remember
this space.
what this didn't just happen organically.
Oh no! Oh
you remember this? This
conversation.
This was a conversation on Clubhouse where you said you wanted to start up a podcasting brand.
Yeah,
and I said if you start up your podcast,
you'll be one of the first. I think I remember that conversation.
And when I noticed that you'd done what you said, true to your word, then I have to be exactly true to mine. Do
you get what I mean?
Exactly the same.
Because there are a lot of wafflers on Clubhouse, people that just used to say things that they didn't mean. When I was saying that, was I saying it with conviction? Like when I was talking at the time, like this is what I'm gonna do. Do you get what I mean? And that's what I'm saying. Sometimes it starts with words. You speak it, you put it out there, and then the work speaks for itself. As I was saying, for you, I'm really big on the work telling the story as opposed to trying to like say, oh, this is what I'm doing and pushing it on people and forcing it on people.
I think the work speaks for itself, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
What I've noticed on the Lit podcast on YouTube is that your content is good, first and foremost.
Thank you.
That's what you want. But also you're bringing something new to the sort of hosting market as well, where not everybody's doing this, and you have to be a little bit different to sort of encourage and attract an audience, and also your guest speakers as well. So
most certainly,
testament to you.
Similar to yourself in the future, the goal, bigger, better, but bigger, better in that helping other people to be putting out amazing, because I love amazing content. So it's not just about me, doing this podcast, but it's really working with people to say, do you know what can we do? How can we put out quality content out there, even particularly our community, Black community? But for me, I'm pretty universal. It's not just a Black thing. It is for the people that feel the need. My customer is everyone. I'm sorry if it hits people the wrong way saying that, but that I go for a universal appeal, because that's how I feel like when you're approaching product, that's how you approach it. Do you get what I mean? Can a president sit here? Can a CEO, can an entrepreneur sit here and make some quality content? The answer is yes. That's exactly what we're going to do. I was going to say, from this conversation, Mikey, I'm so thankful. It's probably going to be the longest conversation I've had in here. I think it's just the space encourages that, right? So what I'll do is I'll make it a two-parter, I think, this one. Just so it's more consumable. But I was going to say, this has encouraged me so much. Like, this is, I don't know how to explain it to you, the way it's come together, the way even it's working. I'm so thankful that we haven't had mishaps, because as I said, guys, it's still a work in progress. So some bits, as we go on, they'll be solidified, but it's the first time that I'm actually using this space. I was learning how I'm going to put the camera angles. That might improve, that might change, but you can only, get to know these things as you're doing it. Do you get what I mean?
Setup is on point.
Yeah, thank you.
For a novice looking in.
Yeah, thank you so much.
But this looks good.
Right, and that was the goal of it, to say, can we sit down in a comfortable space, have some tea, have some coffee, and actually just have an organic chat about what we do? Because as I said, I love what you're doing. I love your story, how you've come up, and even the things that would have held you back, and how you turned that and you've used that to work for you instead of against you. Your entire journey is just brilliant. And thank you so much for coming to this space, being completely open, and just wearing your heart on a sleeve, because oftentimes people will come and they only want to show you the side of where things are working, the side of where they're driving the big car or they're living in the big house, but they won't tell you, the version of the story where it possibly couldn't have worked out. There's a version of the story where they wouldn't have been there, and the obstacles and that kind of thing. But this is what I love about Lit and the space, is the fact that people can come, be honest, be vulnerable.
I think it's an element in terms of the one, feeling it's a safe space, and then two, that I definitely want to share the honesty of this property business, because it is hard work. But if you want to do it, or if you don't want to do it and you want somebody to manage doing it for you, there are people out there to do it. And it is probably a better option just setting something up yourself. Like starting up a startup with a shop front or anything like that, because leases are expensive. All that sort of stuff. But
no joke.
One thing that is substantially stable is the property market. Although we have your ups and downs, but you can, if you do it in this world, the short-term rental market is buoyant. Just look at Airbnb, how they're growing. Booking.com, how you actually go out now and you source properties, but things you want to stay in. Like me, I came up to Leeds. Where did I want to stay? I'm in a hotel, but Booking.com was the first place I went.
You went,
searched Leeds, and it gives you all these properties, all these options of what's available to you, and you go with what you want.
Absolutely, and we're always going to need somewhere to stay. Do you get what I mean? So it's like, unless that stops, I don't see it stopping anytime soon, especially even with the taking in, like, you know, refugees and things like accommodation right now, high, like people needing places to stay, because even the council waiting lists are ridiculous, longer than they've ever been before. So I see that. That to me is something I'm interested to learn about, because I know there are practicalities you have to do to get to it, and to do what you've said. You've been honest to say you need to know your risk, you need to know your outgoings and everything else. See, that's like, okay, it's going to take work. Do you get what I mean? However, is a safer bet. It all adds up. Do you get what I mean? I'm like definitely curious,
but not to get to know from that. It is hard work, but it's hard work in any business you set up.
Nothing's easy.
You're gonna have to know all of those things that I've spoken about. But the control is that you're not necessarily selling a product. You're selling a house where people stay. And that can be as versatile as you want it to be, or you need it to be. And if you're selling it by the night and it's £100, that's sometimes a better option than a hotel can be. Like my hotel was, I think, £80, including in breakfast for one person. You turn that up to two people, it turns into £160. That might not be a sort of viable option unless your company's paying for that. Whereas if you're a tradesperson and the company is your business, you want to save as much money on the cost of your accommodation, because you might be staying there for 10 nights.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? You don't want to be spending £1,600 on 10 nights.
That eats into your profits.
Exactly.
And you want to avoid anything that eats into your profits. But I was saying, Mikey, listen, we could go
on
hours,
all days. Appreciate your time
chatting at it, because I feel like there's so much that we haven't touched on, and I'm hoping we can have another conversation.
Definitely.
You know, at some point where when you're ready and that sort of thing, and maybe just touch on other bits that we may not have touched on today. But it's been an absolutely amazing conversation, especially just digging into insights, learning a little bit more about yourself.
Thanks for having me.
I think we'll close it off here. But before we go and shut it off, is there anything you'd like to add just to close us off?
No, again, thanks for hospitality.
You're welcome,
giving
man.
me the opportunity to tell my truth to a certain extent. If people want to get hold of me, my socials are Mikey it's Mikey P Small, and that's my Instagram handle. And then it's usually Be More Homely is my company. So if they want to search me on Google, if you search Be More Homely, you can find me on there. So it's Mikey, Mikey at beMoreHomely.com.
Brilliant, guys. It's your boy, Isaac Speaks. Another amazing episode of Let Inspiration Take Over podcast. Make sure you like, follow, and subscribe on YouTube. Guys, you can tell. Look how amazing this content is, yeah? All you have to do is like, follow, and subscribe. And I look forward to bringing you more episode of the Lit podcast. Not only that, but for the work that will be produced in this space as well. I'll keep you up to date with what will be made. Look forward to that journey. I'm excited. I can't wait. But till next time, check you guys later. Peace.
Take care.